When you think of Demon Slayer, you think of a bunch of humans trying to practically survive. We've seen a ton of these so-called Demon Slayers and Hashira alike struggle with some of the strongest demons out there. But what if they weren't just human? What if they were something known as demigods? Now, this is something that I was thinking about for a while, and frankly, I was supposed to do this when the Percy Jackson series was still going. But unfortunately, things happened and I wasn't able to get to it. But here we are on it now. This is what if Tanjiro was a demigod. For starters, what does it mean to be a demigod? Well, for one, it's just more or less being a child of one of the gods. Now, this could mean from various gods. It could be one of the big three, being that of Zeus, Poseidon, or Hades. These are the big three, but don't get it twisted. These are not the only three in its totality. There are a lot. Some of the coolest, in my opinion, someone like Ares, there's Athena, Apollo, and Artemis, or Diana, or Hephaestus, and many more. I mean, I could sit here for a very long time talking about how many Greek gods there really are, but we're gonna basically talk about what if Tanjiro was a demigod himself. Now, some of you may be wondering that, okay, so he's a demigod. What god would he be from? And maybe some of you would think, oh, he should be from this god or from this god. And I think for simplicity, I'm going to make it so he's a child of Poseidon. Now, with that said, you may be wondering, okay, so what does demigods get? And if he's a child of Poseidon, what also type of powers does he get? I mean, for starters, just a base demigod would start with superhuman strength, superhuman speed, agility, stamina, durability, an above normal human healing factor, and with, obviously, being the son of Poseidon, natural water would definitely be his massive benefit, and very a lot of other things, being that of heightened senses, superhuman reflexes, and stuff like that. So think of it as if Tanjiro has far more than just his sense of smell. That's insane. It's his sight, his touch, his hearing, his smell, every single sense, every last one of them is definitely and massively heightened. And we're gonna start from the very beginning, his normal life, right? This timeline is a little bit different, especially because Tanjiro is more or less not born to the same father, and in a way that sounds kind of mean, but he may have the father in his life, or may not. It doesn't really matter to the story necessarily, but I thought I would bring it up just in case. But still, Tanjiro would grow up in a normal life, but he would begin to kind of notice things, see things that others wouldn't, and just at the end of the day would see things completely differently. But this world is so different because the Greek gods themselves are a little bit deterred by the demons' arrival. I mean, at the end of the day, these demons do exist, and a lot of them are kind of off-putted by it. It seems that it is human-made, or basically humanoid by nature, so the humans themselves definitely have created them, but it seems as if the demigods that are currently on the planet or in this area are actually kind of fending off the demons, but that also includes some people that aren't necessarily demigods. I mean, there are a couple, and quite a few, that are not demigods because everybody can see demons. Now, in terms of Tanjiro, unfortunately, when he does head off to the village and sell the coal, his family would still die, and he would still run away to try to help Nezuko, carrying her off basically a mountain. But when Nezuko would fight him, he would quickly realize that he has massive strength, and he's able to more or less fend off Nezuko with relative ease. So when Giyu shows up, he's actually massively impressed. And I know some of you may be thinking, or maybe actually kind of considering this, what about the whole idea of not getting past a certain age? I mean, we know Tanjiro will be a little bit older than normal, which, yes, I do understand that, but I will not be pursuing the story based in that canonical sense. This is a little bit different, especially because we are dealing with demons on top of everything else. Now, the mist is a point of contention that I will speak about, but that's not something I want to talk about at this moment. So let me jump right back to the Giyu fight. Tanjiro would more or less be able to subdue Nezuko, and Giyu would tell him that they need to kill her right now, but Tanjiro would basically show that he is of extremely high level, so Giyu would kind of be okay with the idea of Tanjiro allowing Nezuko to live. And this would be kind of his way of convincing him, and Tanjiro would show feats of, well, a demigod. Now, this would surprise Giyu, especially because Giyu himself is not a demigod. I mean, he isn't at all, but he's heard of so-called things, and he knows that there are Hashira themselves that have been demigods in the past, but he doesn't even know if some of the Hashira they have now are even demigods at that. But you never know. It could be some random person, random demon slayer, or Tanjiro could be the last demigod, in fact, of them all. They really just don't know in general. But luckily enough, the whole idea of killing Nezuko kind of peters away. Tanjiro is sent off to Urokodaki just like normal, and the true training would begin. Now, I want to talk about how beneficial this training is, because there's no way around this, but it would make him pretty damn strong. Okay, for starters, he's already part of the big three, and even if he really wasn't, this would still make him pretty strong. But as part of the big three, or part of the children of the big three, you are already inherently stronger than most demigods, since obviously their father is, or his father is, well, Poseidon. And on top of the fact that he can most likely utilize anything to do with the ocean, the water, and so on, the skills and his adaptation and his learning and so on would be so insane that his ability to pick up water breathing would be freakish. It would be freakish. It would almost be as if he's a natural prodigy. I mean, even beyond what he would normally be in canon, and he would have no problem adapting to utilizing a sword, becoming an expert swordsman in a matter of easily weeks, maybe even less than that. Yeah, we've seen basically Percy Jackson, the son of Poseidon, more or less learn how to utilize a sword at an extremely high level very quickly. And yes, he does lose from time to time, and we've seen him, if you've read the books, he does lose from time to time in terms of utilizing a sword and his sword skill, and I won't get too far into stuff like that, but still, he more or less would be extremely powerful and extremely good at using a sword. Now, on top of the water breathing, you could easily make the argument that him being a demigod would actually make water breathing visible, and his utilization of water breathing would be visible. So he would basically be able to utilize water breathing in a way that nobody else actually can, basically using the water itself to actually gain massive advantages. But even if you were thinking, you know what, that's too far, he wouldn't be able to do that because there's no pool of water, or there's no lake, there's no natural bodies of water, that's completely fine, because these techniques, these like concentration breathing, and maybe even something like concentration breathing constant, because of how much extra time he would have because of his rapid speed of learning, I mean, it would make him extremely strong. I mean, it already boosts your strength, durability, your stamina, and so on. So imagine if he already has a way higher base level, that allows him to be practically superhuman and give him a ton of different, more or less abilities. It would be insane. And on top of that, he would have more or less a foresight ability, basically being able to dream and find massive indications in his, well, day-to-day life. So when he would go to sleep before the final selection, he would kind of dream about what's going to occur and what's going to be there. So this would give him a massive advantage in actually taking down every demon in the final selection. On top of that, I don't really see him losing to anything. Like, he's going to run through every demon at the end of the day, and he might be close to the level of some of these Hashira that he obviously doesn't even know yet, but easily would be on or close to those types of feats. That's how strong this Tanjiro would be off the jump, because this training would be extremely impactful. Now, I'm not even getting into the fact that I might even be arguably underpowering him, because we don't really see that much time with Percy Jackson, or even just demigods in general and their powers. And I mean that in terms of training. We see Percy Jackson have very limited amounts of training, and we're talking about a Tanjiro that has already gone through a year and a half or so worth of training. I mean, this would be massive for Tanjiro, and it could even help him develop his strength even further. His sense of smell would be even more heightened, even more than probably his other senses, but massively would be heightened, and all of his senses would be so keen that, I mean, there's arguments to be made that even some of the strongest demons would not have the same senses as him. Now, with all of that said and done, the final selection would be cleaned up very easily. He would finally come back, take Nezuko in her box, and embark on his journey. Now, there's no point in me sitting here and talking about the Swamp Demon. There's really none at all. The Swamp Demon is something that would be very easily defeated by Tanjiro, and with the help of Nezuko would probably make it even easier. Now, I want to talk more about going into the city that never sleeps, or the Akuza arc, or the Akuza arc. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that city, but that's beyond the point. This is his first meeting with Muzan. Now, how do you think Muzan would feel about running across somebody that not only kind of reminds him of, more or less, Yorichi, but also the fact that he's wearing those darn earrings, and, well, he's giving off the scent of someone who's not full human? That is scary, because he would then have a rush of realization that this person is a demigod. Now, if there has been other demigods here, more or less, if there are demigods that exist at this moment, I think it would make this world a lot easier. And I want to talk about that before I continue on with Muzan. If there's a lot more demigods, and they all become demon slayers to a larger extent, Muzan would stand no chance. No, literally no chance at all. And we're going to kind of stay away from that idea, because, in my opinion, even Tanjiro being here may basically back every demon into a massive corner, because Muzan would be scared shitless of this guy. I mean, he would be terrified of him. Not so much that he would attack him in broad daylight, believing that it would be massive consequences to him doing that. But this is no joke. Muzan knows that this guy's the real deal. So much so that, I mean, even if he does decide to send off 2 other demons, I mean, these demons would get completely and utterly obliterated. But in my opinion, I think Muzan would just make sure that he just can leave, that he takes off and disappears, because he doesn't want anything to do with this Tanjiro, and I know that for a fact. I mean, Muzan was already scared of Tanjiro, or in a way scared of him, to a certain extent, with just the signs of Yorichi. Now imagine all of the fear, the anger that would be pumping through him when he can sense that this kid is an actual demigod, that this kid is something of different proportions. And frankly, this would be kind of good, at least for the Greek gods. The Greek gods are actually looking at this as a pretty beneficial thing for them. I mean, at the end of the day, the Greek gods look at this as the demons are not good for mankind, just not for a large mass majority of them. I mean, at the end of the day, Ares is probably loving this over the fact that he loves the conflict and war. But at the end of the day, well, the Tanjiro is going to have massive benefits just throughout this entire time. But I want to talk about something that it doesn't necessarily involve the story itself. Tanjiro, yes, he's a demigod, but a lot of things come with that, right? And that comes with basically gods. Now, Tanjiro, of course, would meet Zenitsu, would meet these other people, and I'm not going to lie to you, the Kyogai fight would not be comparable. A lot of these things would not be very close at all, and in my opinion, the Rui fight wouldn't be at all either. But once we get to these more heavily conflicted fights, there's something to be considered, because once their training is done and ready, once the fighting truly stirs up at a more massive level, especially past Rui, but you could make an argument that during the Rui fight, you could even see this. Now, I don't think Tanjiro personally would have trouble with Rui at all. I think Tanjiro would kill Rui, entering into the realm of Hashira level and getting that title as well. But what I do think is that you have a group, a family of demons. And this is a large group of demon slayers. A lot of these demon slayers die here, but of course Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu more or less go through and help as many people out as possible. But what does this feel like? This large group of demons, large group of demon slayers, what does it feel like? It feels like war, and it feels like a battle. And what happens when battles like this occur? Ares is very near. Now, this is where things get very interesting in my opinion. You could make the argument that Ares himself may actually feed off of this more or less war that is going on, maybe even helping some of the other demons to even the playing field a little bit, at least against some of these other demon slayers. Now, this is something to think about, especially because, I mean, we are dealing with more or less war between the humans and the demons, so there's definitely a massive chance that could occur. That maybe some of the gods, maybe someone like Ares, could decide to actually affect this world, affect the playing field, so he can see more war and more carnage. I mean, there's a chance at that for sure, but I'm not going to waste that much more of your time when talking about this. None of these fights truly matter, especially after the fact that Tanjiro will basically get even more extensive training from Hashira and now being at Hashira level. Now, if he doesn't go to the Mugen train, then Akaza will never show up, being that that's who more or less Muzan wanted to kill. So if he doesn't go there, then Tanjiro just flat out doesn't show up. Now, if he does go there, then obviously he will show up, Enmu being not an issue at all, and arguably Rengoku and Tanjiro would be able to take down Akaza because of how good Tanjiro's more or less foresight or not foresight, excuse me, just superhuman reflexes and heightened senses could be. I mean, way better than a normal human, and would be way better when utilizing a breathing style. Yes, I know he wouldn't have his ability to more or less not give off any threat and not be able to give off any killing intent, but shoot, maybe he would even adapt that while fighting because of how good this version of Tanjiro could possibly be. But I think a 2-on-1 with Rengoku and Tanjiro would be a close fight, but I don't think Akaza would win it, and I don't think Rengoku would end up dying anyways, but that doesn't really matter. That's kind of null and void because I don't think Tanjiro would even go on this mission, so it would just be Enmu, and in my opinion, I think Rengoku could have got it figured out and actually defeated Enmu himself, so we would see a Rengoku still alive. Now, in terms of the Entertainment District arc, you could make the argument that Tanjiro would not go to that as well, but with the citing of the strength of Enmu and understanding that these demons might be getting far stronger, I could definitely see him going to the Entertainment District arc. Now, did any of these fights change at all? No, not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, we know Tengen would basically retire after this, so that still would happen, and so on. But just this time around, I mean, Tanjiro is going to absolutely be elite, and he is absolutely going to take on and take over every one of these fights, even so on forth to the Swordsmith's village, Tanjiro being far stronger and just far more equipped to everything, especially when helping someone like Mitsuri. And only reason why I'm running through this as quick as possible here is because I want to talk about something else here. Because all of these battles don't mean that much. Even all the way down to the very end with the countdown to sunrise, there is massive arguments to be made that Tanjiro does not need sun breathing. Let's start with that. Because maybe water breathing is affected by the fact that he is Poseidon's son. Or on top of that, would give him even more of the ability to actually kill these demons. Now, even if you think, oh well, I don't think that would be the case, that's fine. I still believe that sun breathing would be in the cards for him, especially because just how he grew up, where he grew up. There's an argument to be made that he still was around his normal father. It's just normal father in terms of in canon and so on. And his fight with Muzan would most likely be a close one, just because maybe he doesn't have the full equipped sun breathing. But everything else, I mean, would be pretty simplistic. I mean, you have the extra Hashira and Rengoku. You'd probably get Tengen still wanting to fight just because, I mean, he's going to be healthy, right? I mean, yes, I know he retired, quote unquote, but if he's fully healthy, he probably would still end up fighting. And it would make it so the Tomioka versus Akaza, but with Tanjiro, of course, would be a far easier fight, and they would clean up pretty quickly. And yes, the fight with, obviously, Muzan himself would be a tough one, but like I said this entire time, Tanjiro's base level, or where he started, was so much higher, and his potential is so much greater in this regard that it would probably end up with a victory. Now, I won't say it's a clean slated victory. I mean, there is no stopping some of these demons from killing people. Kokushibo is going to kill people no matter what. I mean, Doma is going to kill Shinobu no matter what. There is no way around that one. But I want to talk about how everything would have changed if there was actual amounts of a lot of demigods in this verse. If there were a lot of demigods, like a Camp Half-Blood, but instead you would funnel them to basically be trained like demon slayers, this whole verse would get absolutely murked and destroyed, in my opinion. I truly believe that. I mean, like I say all the time, when you put someone that is powerful, right? When you put someone that is powerful and you put them in a verse, and then you allow them to acclimate to that verse, more or less allowing them to use their breathing styles or use a Nichiren blade and so on and so forth, it would basically allow them to do far greater things. And I think the same thing for a demigod Tanjiro. I mean, we're talking about a demigod Tanjiro that's very similar to Percy Jackson, a Percy Jackson that is extremely strong, bar none. He's extremely powerful. Now, if you plopped Percy Jackson into Demon Slayer, does he just solo Demon Slayer? I'm not 100% sure about that. But I do believe if you put Percy Jackson in, kind of like what we're doing with Tanjiro, and you trained him throughout this entire time with his demigod factors on top of that, we're dealing with an absolute monster that was ready to kill every last demon that exists. Now, with that said, I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think Tanjiro being a demigod would change this much? Would more or less allow him to scale even quicker and even faster in terms of power? Or do you think that I'm overstating the power of a demigod, at least in terms of the Greek god factors? Now, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, like I said, and I hope y'all have an amazing day. Later.